Um, I got my started when I was like 15. The cool thing to do back then was to emulate other producers and artists and music of the time. And I remember in particular, Busta Rhymes had a record, Extinction Level Event, and before that, When Disaster Strikes. I think that was like 1997. Early on, I got a MIDI controller with Cakewalk 1, which for the young kids, that's Sonar now. But this is mid 90s, and so the thing to do was, for me at least, and me and one of my buddies, we would listen to a track and try to recreate it with the MIDI controller and with the sounds that we had at that time, and that was like the beginning of me learning how to sequence and put together sounds to make something that would eventually sound like a record. Production is something that early on I gravitated towards because I like the idea of sequencing different elements to create music. And as a kid, I listened to music a lot, and I didn't have any one or two particular genres that I listened to. I listened to virtually everything from classical music to Phil Collins and Stevie Wonder to rock records. So early on, my influences included producers or beat makers like Pete Rock and Jay Dilla. I always appreciated the jazz influence, the musical influence with hip-hop drums and hip-hop samples behind them. And that's something to this day that I still enjoy. I went on to arrange for Black Marching Band in high school, and I remember early on I had a couple flops. My first successful arrangement was in my senior year of high school, Hard Knock Life by Jay-Z. That continued into college. I found myself arranging top 40 records for Morgan State. Not right away. I had to kind of work my way up in the favor of the band director. Because you come in as a freshman, you're not really trusted early on to do that sort of thing. And I had a couple flops in college. One of my first successes was an arrangement of Thong Song for the band by Cisco, and that was kind of cool. And I remember the band director, he said, good job. And he didn't really hand those out that often, so I really appreciated it. And by the time I got to maybe my junior year at Morgan State, I was arranging the younger music for like for the dance routines, and then eventually I stepped out and got my own little marching band program together for a while. I was arranging all of the records, Earth, Wind & Fire, Stevie Wonder, you name it. Classic soul records, I was arranging them. And then I remember how cool it was to hear something that I had sequenced be musically orchestrated, where you have elements within a record being assigned to different voicings or different wind sections in the marching band, so that was kind of cool. And little did I know at that time, I was learning how to put together a commercial record, because when you're arranging music for a marching band, you're literally stripping down the elements and assigning them to different instrument voicings. And so without realizing it early on, I was learning the inner nuances of a record, which would later play a role in my ability to create music in any genre. It helped me sort of shape the commonality amongst the different genres. And great writing is great writing regardless of what genre you're in. That doesn't change. The main thing that changes is the musical formula, the instrument usage and selection for a particular genre, the record progression, and just nuances that make one particular genre feel the way that it feels, So just based on the experience of having to break down these records, you kind of gain an understanding of what's going on. Drum selection, drum usage, instrumentation, tempo, keys, what they're doing chord progression wise, all of this stuff ties in every genre of music. You see a different combination of these things, and after a while it is creativity within a box. Not to the point that you can't be creative, but to a point where you have to know the formula that you're trying to create in order to achieve a specific genre, and it gives you the ability to create your own in a very disciplined and controlled manner. Ultimately, that was something that I didn't realize at that point, but I was learning how to build commercial music and how to piece together different elements, or how the different elements of commercial records fit together. Something that a pure musician may not necessarily be inclined to want to do. And so now that allows me to break down a record and strip it down to its individual elements to see what makes up different genres. So I can produce virtually any genre at any point, as long as I have a reference point that I can guide myself by.